Good afternoon, everybody. This is a live emergency update as we have a potential tornado outbreak underway across portions of the Northeast. We have a couple of new tornado warnings as well down near Dansville. We did have a confirmed tornado earlier over the Buffalo Southtowns. That one was near Eden. That one has since weakened. You can see this storm up near Darien. This is the one that was the original tornado producer near Eden, but now we've got impeded inflow by some of these super showers just ahead of it. I'm watching this area down near Dansville now as a new tornado warning has been issued. This is just to the southwest of Dansville, New York. You can see that intense mesocyclone there. A lot of storm relative inflow as well into that storm. And we have got a tornado watch with high-end probabilities that includes Syracuse, off to the northeast, as well as portions of the Adirondacks. I was looking at the latest HRRR model, and you definitely are seeing a northward trend a little bit in those mesocyclone tracks. Meanwhile, other models like the 3-kilometer NAM actually have a little bit further south also potentially going nuts. But you definitely do have a northward trend of these updraft helicity tracks, basically showing where the mesocyclones are going to track from Syracuse up through the Burlington area. Also including the Adirondacks. All you miners of the Herkimer Diamonds out there, be on the lookout because we do have an indicator of some long track supercells. And there's also a warm front that's going to be across this area, to the north of which you've got easterly surface winds. Above that, you've got about 30 to 40 knots of a 1-kilometer low-level jet, and you have the remnants of Hurricane Beryl coming in here as well. That is just causing a tornado outbreak on steroids, pretty much. You infuse that moisture, you infuse that stronger low-level wind shear, and that creates a situation with a big-time tornado potential. And you've also got a tornado warning here in northwestern Pennsylvania. That's a likely tornado in progress right now, just to the north of Hydetown. So you can see this strong rotation north of Titusville as well. That's also a damaging tornado, very likely. You can use some of the dual pole products here to try to see if there's a tornado in progress. Doesn't look like it right now, but a very strong low-level mesocyclone with this little bean-shaped supercell just to the northwest of Titusville. Going over to some of the other radars, that one's in a bit of a radar hole, even though I'm using Pittsburgh there. But you can definitely see some of these tornadic supercells are starting to light up. You got another tornado warning further south, just to the west of Genesee. Look at that classic bean shape. You also have a very tight forward flank gust front, hook echo on the backside, likely tornado just to the west of Genesee, New York too. So very complex terrain. That's actually right near the Pennsylvania-New York border, just to the south, right near Pennsylvania, near Genesee. And we're also watching this area just offshore of Oswego. Severe thunderstorm warning has finally been issued for this zone, but it had a very powerful mesocyclone and still has a very strong mesocyclone right here near New Haven. You can see a ton of storm relative inflow just cranking into that mesocyclone as it just moved off the shoreline of Lake Ontario there, continuing off to the northeast. And I'm definitely watching some of these other storms in a cluster down near the Finger Lakes. This one out near the Tug Hill Plateau, very interesting. Just to the southeast of Lowville, areas where we're normally chasing lake effect snow, could definitely get tornado potential there. And that one's heading into the Adirondacks a bit, getting a little closer to that. You could definitely see a mesocyclone, not a ton of inflow into that one right now either. But definitely a tornado outbreak is underway right now. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here. Brandon Kopic is on the ground as well, chasing that storm system. We ended up being trapped on Sargent Island there for some days, and that kind of took us out of the tornado chasing action up through Shreveport with over 100 tornado warnings issued. I think there are like 70 tornado warnings issued there. And then yesterday, that tornado out near Mount Vernon, southern Indiana, just went absolutely nuts near Evansville. And we predicted this several days ago. We knew that this was going to be a ripper here as well. And that's exactly what happened. We knew this Beryl would be a prolific tornado producer because anytime you have a tropical cyclone that gets picked up by an upper-level trough like that, you get the infusion of mid-level dry air that ramps up instability. The tropical low ramps up that low-level wind shear, also infuses the warm sector with tropical moisture, and it's basically like a trough on steroids with a stronger surface low as well. But we have a tornado outbreak underway across portions of the northeastern U.S. New York into Vermont. That's where it's going to be worse. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this live update, and thank you, Team Dominator members, as well. But we definitely do have a rare tornado outbreak over portions of the Northeast. Usually that's what it requires, too, is definitely a tropical system to be infused in that. Let me show you really quick the environment that we're dealing with and why this thing is so high end. This is the 3-kilometer NAM, where you've got about a 50-knot southerly low-level jet ahead of this convective line. This is at 5 p.m. too, so much later on. And look at how the wind shear increases in magnitude. You have a decent low-level jet right now that lags a little bit further west, nosing into Buffalo, northwestern Pennsylvania. That's why these are going tornadic right now, because they're a little bit tighter to the 850 low. So those across northwestern Pennsylvania into far western New York, those are going nuts from that 50-knot low-level jet. But you also have a 40-knot low-level jet a little bit further to the east. That one's up near Syracuse, nosing up to the Oswego area and into the southern Adirondacks. And that is definitely why you have those tornado warnings a little bit further east as well. But definitely the 3-kilometer NAM has very strong low-level wind shear from northeastern Pennsylvania through a large swath of central New York all the way up into the Adirondacks. And it seems like the 3-kilometer NAM has had a much better handle on the tropical cyclone-induced tornado threat. Look at this, multiple rounds of storms. This one up near Burlington by this evening. All of these are going to have major tornado potential across New York. This is up near Buffalo, Rochester, up to the east of Watertown, north of Syracuse, building down into central Pennsylvania. The 3-kilometer NAM looks a little bit less widespread for the tornado outbreak. Focuses those supercells a little further north along that warm frontal zone. Buffalo, portions of Rochester, up through Watertown as well. And the reason why it does that is because most of the low-level wind shear is a little bit further north on the HRRR model. We can step forward to a more recent run of the HRRR and see that a little bit more prominent. That's why we've had these confirmed tornadoes from Buffalo and also the confirmed dominating helicity track showing you those long track mesocyclones across the central and northern Adirondacks, eventually into northern Vermont. So the HRRR model definitely has a little bit stronger low-level wind shear north, whereas the 3-kilometer NAM basically lights up this whole entire area anywhere to the south of that warm front because of a 50-knot low-level jet that accelerates late afternoon into evening. I tend to believe the 3-kilometer NAM a little bit more than the HRRR model with these tropical systems. Definitely seems to handle the infusion of a upper-level trough with a big-time tropical surface low. But at the very least, if the HRRR model's right, most of your tornadoes will be confined to the north and a little bit more of a wind damage threat further south. But if the 3-kilometer NAM is right, you're probably going to have a tornado outbreak across this whole entire zone. Central New York, all the way up into southern Quebec, up near Montreal could certainly get that tornado outbreak as well. And we're going to go a little bit here now to the composite reflectivity, and I'm going to show you the evolution of these tornadoes. This is about right now, showing you a pretty accurate initialization by the 3-kilometer NAM, but you also have these tornado warnings further to the northwest. So I think that the 3-kilometer NAM is probably a little bit more accurate. Meanwhile, the HRRR model has more of a damaging wind threat further down the front into central Pennsylvania, central New York. 3-kilometer NAM, meanwhile, has a tornado outbreak all the way down the line. Look at this one up near Burlington, Vermont at about 4 to 5 p.m. You've got these supercell storms across the northern Adirondacks, northern New Hampshire, eventually into western Maine. Big frickin' problems here, folks, and it's all fueled by this low-level jet. The HRRR has a slightly weaker low-level jet than the 3-kilometer NAM, but the 3-kilometer NAM has done a very good job predicting the evolution of the tornado threat. Look at the HRRR, and then we'll pop over to the 3-kilometer NAM. Much stronger of a low-level jet signal into central New York, as you can see. We're going to pop back over to radar analysis again. Here's the radar analysis showing you that storm in the Adirondacks that we're still very concerned about. There we go. Now it's not letting me zoom. There you can see the tornado warning off to the west. This one is a big problem near New Haven. We knew that this thing was going to go tornadic as soon as it came onshore. We're a little bit surprised that it didn't go tornadic before. This is just to the east of Oswego. This thing just came ashore with that major storm relative inflow pop, and we likely have a likely tornado right near New Haven, New York right now. This is a big problem here, everybody. Zoom in a little bit closer, and we can definitely see that strong rotation. Likely tornado developing right here near New Haven. The velocities haven't really responded just yet, but that is definitely going to happen. This is a dangerous storm. We looked at the echo tops, which are just rocketing. This is how you can predict when these mesocyclones are really strong because of the vertical velocities that are injected up into the atmosphere, up to the troposphere. Very sharp forward flank gust front. This right here is the forward flank downdraft of the supercell. You have a rear flank downdraft in the backside of the mesocyclone, wraps all the way around, and then you have a very tight rear flank downdraft gust front. This is lifting off to the northeast. Pulaski, watch out. Get in your safe place, Pulaski. You're normally used to lake effect snow out here, but you've got a dangerous supercell storm that has just come ashore and tapped into that strong instability. It's the tip of the hook that we're most interested in right here, and it keeps trying to grab onto that instability. Looks like you probably had a little bit of a water spout just move offshore Lake Ontario, and the tip of the hook is trying to reinvigorate once again. Wow. Dangerous tornadic storm happening. Look at that hook coming right in. Cyclonically curved, forward flank gust front. It's moving to the northeast of New Haven. Pulaski, get in your safe place. Richland, Sandy Creek, Boylston, all of those areas that were normally used to chasing lake effect snow. Now is the time to get in your safe place. This is a dangerous supercell storm here. Moving off to the east. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this live update, live emergency update. As it's pushing off to the east, we are doing a radar breakdown here. And there you can see it headed toward Pulaski and Richland, a very dangerous supercell storm. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, new Team Dominator members. This is trying to cycle now to the north of Mexico. So these are areas where we're normally chasing lake effect snow. Today we are monitoring a tornado outbreak out here that is in progress, happening right now. There you can see that strong rotation. We're zooming in a little bit here, just to the north of Mexico. You're included in the tornado warning. This is that strongest rotation just to the northeast of New Haven, north of Mexico there. That is at the tip of the hook that we're watching. A very dangerous supercell storm here coming in. Look at the double panel. We are watching this area just to the north of New Haven on the southeastern shores of Lake Ontario. And we do have this dangerous supercell storm here coming into Pulaski, areas where we're normally chasing lake effect snow. And this is a dangerous supercell moving right along the beach. Right to the north of Mexico. And it looks like the RFD is getting a little bit more messy on this one, folks. There it is, coming into Pulaski. What is going on with this thing? Not letting me zoom. There we go. Got it back. We're back. I definitely should be chasing this, that's for sure. But we are doing radar breakdown here. Another tornado warning way to the west near Dansville. It's just rocketing. So we've got tornado warnings all over the place. We're going back to Buffalo radar, and watch these things materialize. This is the north-south convective line that's getting organized. And we have a new tornado warning. Rapidly rotating mesocyclone now. Near Dansville, lifting northeast towards Springwater. South Bristol as well. Bristol, west of Rushville. We've also got a new tornado warning now near Batavia. That rotation was ramping up to the northeast of Darien. Since that time, it's fallen off a little bit, that rotation. But still, it looks a little strung out near Albia, getting a little closer to the Batavia area. All these areas are very familiar because we chase major lake effect snow out across these zones. And Dansville has a tornado warning down near Wellsville as well in New York. Look at that classic supercell structure. Independence as well. You can see all the inflow. There's your mesocyclone just north of Genesee. That's the Pennsylvania-New York border right there. Another tornado warning in northwestern Pennsylvania as well. This one has had some particularly strong rotation with it. But it is in a bit of a radar hole there in northwestern Pennsylvania. There's your bean-shaped supercell. 3-kilometer NAM has big wind shear back here, a little bit further to the west across northwest Pennsylvania. So that one could go nuts as well. High-end tornado watch. High probabilities has been issued out here. And this is the main storm that we're watching now. And look at that supercell storm that even developed just in front of it down near Camden. Even that one is starting to look a lot more interesting. Zooming out a little bit more on this radar image. That's the storm that's developed in the inflow region of that supercell just west of Camden. Pulaski, get in your safe place. The Super 8 in Pulaski, where we always stay chasing that lake effect. You've got a rapidly intensifying mesocyclone coming toward your location. There is that rotation just to the west of Pulaski, southwest of Sandy Creek. Pulaski, Sandy Creek, get in your safe place. Dangerous situation here. I'm not seeing any debris. This right here is overhang from reflectivity coming in on that inflow, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a correlation drop on that. That's very close to that rotation. Sometimes just because you have that overhang of reflectivity, it can make it a little bit difficult to see the debris ball. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a tornado in progress right now coming into Pulaski. You have a lot of strong velocities up there, a lot of inflow, a lot of those tight velocities too. And that could be a tornado, folks. It's still radar indicated, but that's probably overhang. Basically, you get reflectivity overhang in the dry air, reflectivity at higher tilts, and it creates that artifact with the correlation coefficient, but doesn't mean that it doesn't have a tornado in progress. It has very strong velocities here coming into Pulaski. Difficult terrain out here to chase too. This highway, we're normally working lake effect snow, headed north and south of it, Sandy Creek, Mansville. This is the area of concern. It's got a tornado warning headed toward Pulaski, Boylston area. You've also got another supercell to the northwest of Inlet. This is in the Adirondacks, and that's pulling an inflow all the way around back to that low-level mesocyclone there that's just ripping. Long Lake, get in your safe place. You're in Herkimer Diamond country here, up in the heart of the Adirondacks, northwest of Inlet. But I'm honestly most concerned about these because I think there's greater wind shear here back to the west that's being indicated by the 3-kilometer NAM. Rochester, you got a mesocyclone with pretty strong rotation overhead as well. Using a distant radar, you can see that it has greater reflectivity aloft. And it also has a strong mesocyclone on the southeast side. So if you're in Rochester, southeast side of town, you got a pretty strong mesocyclone there as well. Danville, watch out. That's a supercell storm southwest of Springwater, tornado warning. Heed those tornado warnings, folks. Get in your safe place. Strong rotation right now just to the southwest of Springwater, northwest of Wayland, New York. Big storm relative inflow on that. New tornado warning extended east of Independence, New York. This is just north of the Pennsylvania border. That's the Pennsylvania-New York border, and that's a strong mesocyclone just to the southwest of Independence, heading toward Greenwood, Jasper, Woodhull, Cameron areas. Pretty dangerous storm there as well. Numerous tornado warnings getting issued. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another one up here near Rochester. Those are some pretty strong velocities on the southern flank of that supercell storm. And I wouldn't be surprised if that one starts to split, and then the right mover will probably watch this area just to the southeast of Pittsford for a developing tornado. You can see a little hook-like appendage. Looks like it's peeling off a left split on the north side. This is the area that you'd want to watch for the development of a tornado, development of a strengthening low-level mesocyclone as well. Further off to the south, Springwater, get in your safe place. Springwater, Canada, South Bristol, Naples. Big problems out there as well. Look at that strong mesocyclone on the southwest coming into Springwater, New York. Right there, folks. Big frickin' problems coming into Springwater. Definitely a dangerous situation. How's it going, everybody? Coming in here to YouTube. We are doing radar breakdowns. Thank you so much for joining this weather report. Normally I like to be in the field on the ground providing that frontline coverage, but we are doing radar breakdowns now. We got trapped on that island for a little bit there out in Sargent Beach, and we missed the tornado potential near Shreveport due to that, and so we're doing these radar breakdowns. Right now it is getting a little bit tighter out here to the southwest of Pulaski. I don't think there's a tornado in progress yet, but could happen at any second. Pulaski, Richland, Orwell areas up towards Sandy Creek, you got to get in your safe place as well. That looks like a pretty dangerous situation there just to the southwest of Pulaski. Look at that hook coming into this area. You got a couple of these showers that are going to be absorbed, and that could even encourage tornado genesis. Look at the cyclonic curvature to that hook coming in as well. Major cyclonic curvature on that hook echo. You've got a rear flank downdraft that's about to come right into Pulaski. This is a big surge of southwesterly winds. The tornado would be lagged back a little bit further back to the west, right along that shear zone, pulling in all that inflow from the northeast, from the east. Everything wants to go in toward that tightening area of low pressure, and then you have this RFD ball just wrapping around the east side of that. So just to the southwest of Pulaski and coming into Pulaski and Richland, you want to be in your safe place. Pretty dangerous situation right here. Look at that RFD surge coming right into Pulaski there, folks. Big southwesterly surge. If you're in Pulaski, you could probably see a ground scrubber of a wall cloud coming right over those big conifers. Tough area to chase. I'm also very concerned about this storm down near Camden. This thing rapidly intensified, is very rapidly assuming tornadic supercell characteristics. It's got this cyclonically curved southern gradient. It's pulling in a ton of inflow from the southwest. It's just to the northwest of Camden. We're definitely going to have to watch that as well. It looks like it might have even split. It's got a left split that's going to go off to the north, and this one will turn off to the right, probably eventually head toward Ava. Complex terrain out here, though. You can see the topography out there. You've got conifers, you've got complex terrain, but this one right near the tip of the hook. Wouldn't be surprised if that one develops a tornado warning very soon, although it doesn't have very much in the way of low-level rotation yet. This one coming into Pulaski is a major concern. We know that there's strong wind shear here. That looks like it's actually right on that RFD bulge, doesn't it? Right at the tip of the hook is where the strongest rotation is located. Maybe not buried back a little deeper, but maybe right near the tip of the hook. Could be interesting. Just to the southwest of Pulaski, folks. Those numerous tornado warnings continue into western New York, south of Richmond, another one too in northwestern Pennsylvania still. This hurricane's definitely gonna be remembered for its tornado outbreak potential. Had like 70 tornado warnings issued by National Weather Service Shreveport, over 100 tornado warnings in total. This one down near Springwater looks very interesting. Quite a intense low-level mesocyclone. And further south, Jasper to Cameron, watch out. A lot of lightning on the backside of this storm, indicating that it could be intensifying a bit more. A lot of the strongest wind shear is a little bit further north, including that storm near Rochester. And I would bet with these stronger southerly winds, it's probably pushing any lake breeze out over the water. A lot of instability all the way right up to the southern shoreline of Ontario, Lake Ontario. So let's look aloft at this storm that's approaching Pulaski, and I bet we can see where the mesocyclone is located aloft. And you can see it looks like a double-barreled low-level mesocyclone. That's also with that RFD. So Pulaski is about to get hammered by a major supercell storm with tornado potential. You go a little bit closer and you can see that hook coming around. Streamwise vorticity flowing into that developing tornado. A shear zone here along the northern edge of the rear flank downdraft bulge. You've got northeasterlies whipping in. You got southwesterlies here. And this shear zone here, when it's underneath the mesocyclone, you have a lot of stretching too, and it'll stretch that horizontal spin into the vertical. And that's how you get those tornadoes. So a pretty dangerous situation from Sandy Creek down to Pulaski, including Richland and Orwell areas. And meanwhile, an intensifying tornado down near Camden. A little closer to Camden, but not as much low-level rotation on that, even though it has a very favorable reflectivity pattern. We're most concerned about Pulaski, and it looks like a tornado is trying to touch down right over town. Right near the tip. Velocities are still a little bit broad, and you can definitely see the southward shift of that low-level jet. I think that's Highway 81 out there. And scanning aloft, you can see these mesocyclones, how strong they are. Even this one on the southeast side of Rochester, headed up toward Ontario and Walworth. Keep an eye on that. Sometimes I use these further away radars to scan up higher in the storm, and it's a little better, it's a little easier to see where those stronger mesocyclones are located. But I look at a closer radar, and you see that these mesocyclones are a little bit more broad. So right now they are definitely strengthening aloft above the ground, and all they have to do is drill down, and you'll get those tornadoes. And that's probably happening a little bit further to the southwest across northwestern Pennsylvania. This thing south of Spring Creek, Pennsylvania, west of Pittsfield. Big problem here. That's a likely tornado. Even though we're scanning way up high in the storm, I think that there's even stronger low-level wind shear a little bit further west based on some of those forecast models. We were looking at the photographs on my Bookface stream as well, just because they're so textbook. It's such a great learning experience to analyze some of these storms. I wonder if this is going to be one of those days too where we get a ton of tornado warnings and not as many tornadoes. Like 10% of the tornado warnings might verify damaging tornadoes, but the wind shear is in place, major wind shear in place, western New York, central New York, up through the Adirondacks, and eventually pushing up into this zone too. Burlington, you got to wonder if there's going to be some funneling near this river valley, near the New York Vermont border. Sometimes that'll enhance that low-level wind shear across portions of New England. So tornado outbreak is underway. We've broken down the environment. We're breaking down the radar right now as well. We're going to break down the environment again. Thank you everybody for tuning in to this weather report. I'm just using the National Weather Service radar. It's the data that everybody uses. All these apps pull from that same frickin' data, the National Weather Service data. And it can be difficult sometimes to break down radar, but it's definitely not rocket science when you're using the dual pol data. I definitely use a lot of experience, though, as well when I'm breaking down some of this radar and what it might look like on the ground. And I've just looked at radar for like 30 frickin' years, so definitely can sometimes anticipate when these tornadoes are happening, even a little bit faster. I also will analyze the environments that they're embedded within. This one doesn't have a ton of inflow. You can see that the couplet's just a little bit broad, and if this will tighten up a little bit, then I think it could have some tornado potential, but definitely some weak tornadoes, very possible on those. And I wouldn't be surprised if this one east of Rochester eventually also develops a tornado warning. High-end tornado probabilities on the watch as well. I'm going to assess some of the environment that these storms are embedded within here, right meow. Here's your tornado watch. It goes until 9 p.m. High-end probabilities. And definitely the 3-kilometer NAM looks even more favorable for the low-level wind shear that these are moving into. It has a low-level jet that's stronger, that's more broad. It extends from northeastern Pennsylvania into central New York with a convective line moving into it. It's possible that the 3-kilometer NAM is overdoing the low-level wind shear a little bit here across central and southern New York. But maybe not, because it's been handling the supercell potential with Beryl very well, and right now it definitely shows you the cluster of supercells over Buffalo to Rochester that are going nuts. It also shows you this lead cluster a little bit further east near Oswego, portions of the Tug Hill Plateau, and look at those supercells maturing near Rochester. That's exactly what they're doing. You got this one just to the east of Lake Ontario. That's the one that's near Pulaski that's going to continue to mature, likely be a long tracker as it eventually goes up toward the Burlington area toward evening. Watch out for this supercell moving from the Adirondacks eventually up into Burlington. This one continues to mature. And the 3-kilometer NAM shows major wind shear all the way up to that convective line with a 50-knot low-level jet. You can click on that, and you got a very favorable photograph. 85 over frickin' 76 out there. This is a tornado set up on steroids for the Northeast. Moving down a little bit. Look at that photograph right there, folks. Major curved photograph. A ton of ventilation aloft for those stronger southwesterlies. And you even have an infusion of dry air across portions of the middle atmosphere. That leads to heating. And the dashed line there gets more separation from the red line. Greater instability. Look at that low-level jet just above the ground, cranking at about 50 knots. And your low-level thermodynamics, 85 over 76. A lot of 0 to 3 kilometer cape being shown there as those cooler 700 millibar temps come in. And look at these strong west-southwesterlies in the middle and upper troposphere. That's what's responsible for all the ventilation of these supercells, and that's why you're basically getting low precipitation or classic supercell storms of this. But a lot of surface heating with that dry air coming in the mid-levels of the troposphere, steepening the rate at which the temperature decreases with height. But that's why the 3-kilometer NAM has this very favorable environment in the low levels for instability. This shows you where the low-level wind shear overlays with surface-based instability. Definitely shows you this corridor across the Adirondacks and eventually into northern Vermont, a little bit further north. Look at that PDS tornado sounding, 79 over 77, major directional shear, 40-knot southerly low-level jet, PDS torr sounding. You really want to watch for the surface wind and 1-kilometer wind to be separated by 30-plus knots, and you're going to have major problems. Well-ventilated, southwest and northeast storm motion at about 20 knots, very doable. No capping inversion, as often happens when you get these tropical cyclones picked up by an upper-level storm system like this. And zooming out on the national view so that we can see what the jet stream looks like. Watch this. Look at that trough in the northeast with a lot of flow on its northeastern side. You've got Beryl embedded within it. Basically what happened is your jet stream is so far south, it had a trough in the center of the U.S. Beryl came up, got picked up by that trough, and now is up into the northeast. So the core of that trough here over the Great Lakes, and you've got a ton of flow on its southeastern side, a lot of instability as well. Just a textbook tornado outbreak here that we honestly saw several days out. Look at that low-level jet just dominating up in there in the northeast. And that's because of that trough shape. It's because of Beryl getting infused in. It's pretty much a tornado outbreak on steroids with this massive low-level jet that's developing central northern New York. But then you go over to the HRRR model, and it confines a lot of the wind shear up a little bit further north where you get more of those backed winds. But that's the 12Z HRRR. You go to the 17Z, and boy, it has that low-level jet right up, banking up against that warm frontal zone. But a slightly weaker low-level jet is being depicted by the HRRR model. So I think as this plays out, if you see a ton of tornado warnings and not as many confirmed tornadoes, then I think that the HRRR model is verifying, which very easily could happen. But that's a classic supercell storm to the northeast of Springwater. It's on approach to South Bristol. If you live in South Bristol, New York, get in your safe place. Very healthy mesocyclone. It's a little bit broad right now, but definitely has the potential to tighten up quite rapidly and produce tornadoes as it moves off to the northeast. I should set up a green screen out in the Team Dominator warehouse for when I do these radar updates on the rare situations when I can't catch an actual tornado event like today. Local man weather and I almost flew into Buffalo though. Watch out, Greenwood, New York, just north of the Pennsylvania border. And we got another tornado warning down near Sweden and Harrison, Pennsylvania, just on the Pennsylvania side. That one continues across northwest Pennsylvania. Look at that tiny little bean shape of a supercell near Spring Creek, Pennsylvania. Tornado warning continues. That storm just went over Pulaski. Richland's next in line. And it's actually already by Richland. It's near Orwell right now. Boylston, right over the Tug Hill Plateau. Using a further away radar to see how it looks like aloft. But we get a little closer to the radar site, and you can see where that tornado would be at the low levels. I don't think it's on the ground right now near Richland and Orwell, but you still want to get in your safe place. That's a strong mesocyclone coming in. That's going to intensify the severe weather experienced on the ground, and it could be a pretty dangerous situation near Richland and Orwell. Look at that hook coming around. Nice hook coming right into Orwell, pulling in that northeasterly inflow near Orwell. You got southwesterlies coming in on the southwest side of it. That shear zone is what you want to watch for. Sometimes the tornado will happen a little deeper in the notch. Sometimes it tries to touch down right at the tip of the hook. Looks like you're about to have a merger of a little storm right on the south side of the hook. Richland and Orwell. You got another one coming in, Albion. Cyclonically curved hook. Got another one to the northeast as well over the Adirondacks. Lincoln Riddle, you better be on this right now. We have got mesocyclones all over the place. About to short circuit here. Western New York lighting up. Looks like these offices are just issuing warnings on everything out here now. It's in a little bit of a hole. Not sure if this is Binghamton. Could be Binghamton. They look a much greater reflectivity near Binghamton. It's very possible that these are in a radar hole and you just can't really see how tight the couplets are. Definitely get in your safe place. South Bristol. Big mesocyclone coming into South Bristol. Pretty tight rotation. Strong mesocyclone. Middlesex, Potter, Rushville, South Bristol. Get in your safe place. This one's actually strong rotation outside of the tornado warning. Just to the northwest of Fremont, New York. Get in your safe place up near Cockatoo. So that's pretty strong rotation right there. Probably going to get another tornado warning there as well, just to the north of Fremont. This one a lot weaker rotation, but certainly heed those tornado warnings. Greenwood, Cameron, Jasper, Rathbone. This one has some pretty strong rotation just on the Pennsylvania side, just to the northeast of Sweden. Tornado warnings are starting to rip. Lots of tornado warnings. I bet this is going to be the day where there's like 100 tornado warnings issued, and they'll probably get 15 to 20 tornado reports. Just southwest of South Bristol, this one's getting dangerous. Look at the Finger Lakes. Look at these beautiful Finger Lakes here. You got to wonder if these are funneling the low-level jet even more. If those southerly winds are just going to funnel right up the Finger Lakes, right up these long valleys, long tight valleys up in here. So a supercell storm that's coming from the north will probably just crank every single time it hits one of these valleys. Will drop a tornado. Definitely a big concern that I have. Definitely terrain features matter out here. And you have got this supercell storm. You're probably going to have funneling right up the Finger Lakes just as this supercell storm grazes along the Finger Lakes. Imagine how difficult it'll be to keep up with some of these storms. You definitely need a drone as well to be able to see the tornadoes. This one will probably have a tornado warning soon as well. Probably have to be sitting up to the northeast up here on one of those west to east roads with a bird in the air to be able to see that tornado potential. That has to be an error. I think that the tornado warning's coming soon. Yeah. South Bristol, get in your safe place. Big problems there with that mature supercell storm. Definitely needs a tornado warning there too. Out here to the west of West Bloomfield, Lima area, up in New York. Probably have a new tornado warning there as well. If the 3-kilometer NAM is correct, and there's a 50-knot low-level jet just to the east of this, just cranking. We're going to look at the RAP analysis too to see how that looks. We got that tornado warning to the north of Fremont that was just issued. But we still need a tornado warning up here as well, up near South Bristol. That's probably the most mature supercell. You look at echotops too. Look at the echotops on this beast. That's how you can tell it's a very strong mesocyclone, even using distant radar, because of these very high echotops. I'm near Honoia Falls, northwest of West Bloomfield, north of South Bristol. Big echotops on this ripper here. Look at these supercell storms. Major supercells in this convective line. I'm wondering if the HRRR is correct, because these aren't going crazy right now in the Adirondacks, and this one's going crazy in western New York. And these are going to be cellular. No concerns about storm mode today. You've got this convective line of supercells. You've got this cluster moving into the Adirondacks, and they all have tornado warnings. This one needs to have a tornado warning as well. I think that it just got issued again. Or excuse me, this one a little bit further north, especially if these have warnings. Probably need to warn these to the southeast of Rochester as well. I think that you're starting to see just different offices, different styles out there. But this thing has the most lightning, the highest echotops, the strongest rotation. South Bristol, get in your safe place. South Bristol, New York. Big inflow notch, big hook hanging down the backside. Likely a tight forward flank. Gust front as well. That is a dangerous supercell storm there near South Bristol. Strong rotation. Hopefully that circulation passes just to the south of town, but I do think that it's probably going to be coming right into South Bristol. Probably is coming in right now. Right frickin' now that thing is coming in. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for dominating that like button. We need it here for this to be seen by people. Thank you. Welcome new Team Dominator members. Thank you, Alina, for sticking with us. Weather Chase and Jason is on here as well. We got people on the ground. Eric, these are going to be capable of producing a violent tornado, believe it or not. I do think that they have that potential just because of the magnitude of the low-level wind shear. There's a lot of low-level wind shear right now. This storm needs a tornado warning. It's got a lot of tight wind shear. It's passing just to the south of South Bristol there. And you know that because this is an even more mature supercell than these ones off to the south. See on EcoTops how this one's rocketing. See how its lightning frequency is going crazy. See how this one up near Lima is also going crazy. These ones have lower tops, but still have tornado warnings, but they actually have more broad rotation. So I'm definitely concerned about this one with the greater EcoTops and even stronger rotation just to the north of Naples, passing near West Bloomfield. This one's also got strong rotation between Fremont and Cohocton. So this one deserves a tornado warning as well, but that one to the north certainly needs a tornado warning. Look at this compact bean. Your tornado warning approaching Cohocton. Get in your safe place, Cohocton. Here it comes. Big time ripper of a tornado warning right there. Healthy mesocyclone. Very healthy mesocyclone up near South Bristol. That thing's not even severe. It has to be an error. Both of these. Oh, there's the tornado warning. Canandaigua, Clifton Springs, Phelps, Gorham, tornado warning, radar indicated. Capable of producing a tornado. Probably just typing it up with the automated prompter there. There's your tight rotation, basically in South Bristol, but just on the south side of town. Clifton Springs, Newark, Farmington. That area is going to have some issues. Watch upstream, get in your safe place. Canandaigua, Clifton Springs, Farmington, Newark, Gorham. And look at these Finger Lakes. You can see the Finger Lakes clearly. These are accelerating southerly winds right up each of these Finger Lakes, enhancing the low-level shear. So if this storm passes just to the north of those Finger Lakes, you got to wonder what they're going to do. It looks like this one back near Cohocton's going to rip right over that zone. I bet you'll see them ramp up their tornado potential just as they hop over these valleys associated with each of the Finger Lakes, accelerating that low-level shear. There it is, the dangerous convective line, Canandaigua, Gorham, west of Rushville. We're very concerned about this supercell storm because of how high the EcoTops are on it. EcoTops are still high on that storm, and they're also high on this one to the east of Pulaski near Boyston area. That one's still radar indicated, but that is a very powerful storm as well. Scanning it aloft, you can see where that rotation is located. Definitely strong mesocyclone just southeast of Boylston, northwest of Redfield, Tug Hill Plateau, Lake Effect Capital, the world out here. And that's a dangerous storm as we are scanning aloft. One negative that could impact these looks like storm mode. You got a lot more storms that this thing's gonna have to charge through. It looks like it's gonna have to merge with some of these. Could get a little bit messy as that lifts up through the Adirondacks. Closer to the radar site. Let's see how that one looks. It's merging right now. It's starting to absorb this cell. Here's your hook echo. You got to watch this area just southeast of Boylston. That's where I think the greatest tornado threat's located with that. Closer to the radar site, the rotation isn't as tight as you might think. Just northwest of Redfield has some potential and along this shear line. But it does look like these aren't responding to the wind shear quite as much as the storms off to the southwest, which means that I bet that the 3-kilometer NAM is a little more accurate, or maybe the HRRR is more accurate. A little bit weaker low-level shear is being experienced out here. I'm definitely concerned about these storms that are approaching the Finger Lakes. Stronger rotation. You definitely got to use Binghamton radar here. Buffalo is probably aimed a little bit lower. Harder to see, but this area here, southeast of South Bristol, Middlesex, Rushville, get in your safe place as well. Middlesex, that tornado is probably going to go to your north. But let's see if we can see any debris loft, any evidence of that. I'm not really seeing much. It's probably a little bit too far from the radar. But But yeah, you can obviously see that this storm's going through the motions. Everything is cyclonically curved. The forward flank gust front, the whole reflectivity pattern, the tip of the hook echo itself. A lot of spin being felt by this storm northwest of Middlesex. They might be feeling some of the enhanced low-level shear even through some of those Finger Lakes zones. No confirmed tornadoes right now. All radar indicated. But they are in a bit of a radar hole out here across western New York. Gorham, Geneva, Canandaigua areas. Looks like we got a dangerous tornadic storm here just to the east of South Bristol. This is the area we're watching. Rushville, watch out. Gorham, Geneva, get in your safe place. Right on the nose of those Finger Lakes. That storm's turning right. That's headed toward Gorham and Geneva now. That's why that warning has been extended that way. This thing's just turning right, headed toward Gorham and Geneva, so it does look like it's going to rip across the northern edge of those Finger Lakes where you have those strong southerlies ripping up those individual valleys of the Finger Lakes. And they did finally warn that one to the east here. Might even be interacting with a little lake breeze action. That's a new warning. Ontario, Williamson, Sodus Point, Sodus. Dangerous storm. We were watching that one on EcoTops as well. That's how you could definitely precede the issuance of the actual tornado warning, is kind of watching how they evolve in the high levels. At the low levels, you definitely see a bit of a broad mesocyclone, but then you go up to enhanced EcoTops. Well, I expected that to be a little higher. This one's dominating. You can definitely tell that this is a dominant supercell storm near South Bristol and Rushville. But you don't have to be the most dominating storm in an environment like this to produce tornadoes. This one's also dominating. Boylston up toward Lowville, New Brennan, Martinsburg, get in your safe place on that one. It's a bit of a cluster, but still has some rotation and a strong mesocyclone. Storm mode is favoring this convective line a little bit further west for its tornado potential. Ontario, Williamson, get in your safe place. Sodus Point area, they're on the southern shores of Lake Ontario. Looks pretty dangerous. Mesocyclone is strong but a little broad, but it could easily tighten up as it gets a little closer to Williamson. And I'm very concerned for the EcoTops as this one heads into Rushville. I think the greatest near-term tornado potential anywhere in the world might be for Rushville and Gorham in central New York. Strong mesocyclone just to the northwest of Middlesex. I have a video of this thing on the Southtowns just sent by my friend Lori out there. It looks like some damage. New York State Police. There's definitely damage down near Eden, near the Chautauqua and Erie County lines. Troopers are in the area assessing. Looks like a pretty strong tornado. That's the one that happened earlier. At least one so far. All you miners of the Herkimer Diamonds, watch out. This is an outbreak. Outbreak of tornadoes coming in. Big southerlies as well. Look at these supercell storms lined up. You've got one to the north up near Walworth. You've got this most dangerous storm headed up toward Gorham and Geneva on the northern edge of the Finger Lakes, turning right. You've got this one down near Cohocton. Further one south headed toward Jasper and Cameron. You've also got a tornado warning storm near Westfield and another one down near Gailton. So you've got a lot of these tornado warnings that are in place. Watch out in Syracuse as well. Watch out for this renegade down near Deerfield, Utica area. You got a supercell storm down near Utica, New York. Starting to wrap up. It's starting to get some bigger storm relative inflow. I would not be surprised at all for when that one also goes tornado warned. And watch out for some of these supercells up near Burlington, southwest of Burlington. These are eventually going to head up toward northern Vermont. And eventually this convective line is also going to swing through. And I don't think that storm mode is going to be an issue. They're probably going to maintain discrete supercell status for quite some time. Ontario, down west of South Bristol, Rushville areas. Get in your safe place. We're very concerned about this mesocyclone heading into Rushville, New York. If you know anybody that live in Rushville, be sure to share this stream. It's a pretty dangerous situation coming in there. Yep, carrot tornadoes. Busy day for tornadoes here. Central New York, up through the Adirondacks and up through northern Vermont. Looks pretty significant. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you new Team Dominator members also. Very concerned about this mesocyclone coming into Rushville, folks. And it's got a confirmed tornado coming into Rushville right now. Confirmed tornado. There it is. Confirmed tornado, Rushville. Get in your safe place. This is an emergency situation here. There's your debris. We've got a TDS, tornado debris signature. Debris getting lofted high up near Rushville. That's a confirmed tornado, folks. Needs that confirmed tag on that. And in fact, probably a tornado warning even further south. Rushville to Gorham, you're included in the farthest southern end of that tornado warning. But boy, wouldn't be surprised if that turns a little bit further right. We anticipated this, as you can see, as this is getting closer to the Finger Lakes. We anticipated this tornado production, and there it is. We've got a confirmed tornado just west of Rushville. Share this stream if you know anybody in this area. Dominate that like button. We've got to give it some more reach. We have got a confirmed tornado right now being indicated just west of Rushville. There it is. There's your tornado debris signature, TDS, west of Rushville. Coming right in. We have got a confirmed tornado just to the west of Rushville. I am going to post this really quick. Confirmed tornado coming into Rushville and Gorham. Got to get this thing on Twitter. Rushville and Gorham. Geneva, get in your safe place. Confirmed tornado. Coming right in right now. Thanks everybody for sharing this. Help us get through the algorithm. I don't have my mic working. I'm just talking to the raw computer here. And our graphics aren't quite as favorable as some. So definitely please share this stream. Rushville to Gorham to Geneva, New York. Take cover immediately. This is a confirmed large and damaging tornado heading into your towns. Take cover now. Boom. Just send it out. Live breakdown. That is a confirmed tornado right now. We are watching it here heading into Rushville and Gorham. Confirmed large and dangerous tornado. It might have weakened its couplet just a little bit. Oh, it's still there, still in progress. You can still see that debris signature just north of Middlesex, New York, just to the southwest of Rushville as well. There's that tornado debris signature coming into town. Rushville, New York, get in your safe place. That's a dangerous tornado. That's a compact supercell storm. You can see the cyclonic curvature with the hook echo. Inflow coming in. There is your forward flank gust front. We got a tornado debris signature. Hopefully it moves just to the north of Rushville. Very easily this thing could move just to the north of Rushville and Gorham, but looks like it's coming right into your locations. That's a radar confirmed tornado. We confirmed it here. Not seeing that radar confirmation yet on the warning statement, but Williamson, New York, just to the west of Sodas Point. You need to get in your safe place. You got a tornado touching down very close to you in Williamson. Not a ton of not a TDS being indicated by that yet, like we have further south. But you got to get in your safe place. There it is, left side. Yep, there it is. There it is, left side. Right to the west of Rushville. And these are going to go over the northern edge of the Finger Lakes region here, Romulus, eventually threatening Syracuse. This massive convective line, supercell storms coming into the Syracuse area. Got a new mesoscale discussion too for these renegades that are starting to develop. This thing's going to go tornadic soon near inlet. This one could go tornadic northeast of Deerfield, eventually up toward Norway. This storm, that the formerly tornado warned storm that went over Pulaski over the Tug Hill Plateau, is starting to merge with additional cells that could prevent that storm from at least near-term tornado potential. Jamestown, New York, you got a tornado warning. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado back near Jamestown. So round after round of these supercell storms with really nothing to slow them down. But Jamestown now has a tornado warning. Watch out, that location just west of Busty. You got some pretty strong rotation coming into Jamestown, New York. A lot of that storm relative inflow there. The couplet's a little bit broad, but definitely deserving of that tornado warning. This one's starting to intensify further south as well, down near Greenwood and Jasper. This is probably going to be the next tornado producer. Another mesocyclone off to the east of Canisteo, up toward Bath. Gorham. There's your tornado producer. It looks like that tornado may have lifted and been a little bit more short-lived. But this one up near Cohocton, heading toward Italy. Rushville, Gorham still getting to your safe place. I still think there's probably a confirmed tornado near that. Looks like it's about to merge with this little shower near Rushville, and then this whole thing will probably just go crazy tornadic. There it comes, marching across numerous supercell storms. As has been the case this entire season, the whole situation has convected a lot more than what the convective allowing models are showing. You've got like 12 supercell storms, a couple of different modes, these along a warm frontal zone in the Adirondacks, moving eventually toward northwestern Vermont. You've also got another couple of renegades in far western New York, with Jamestown having a tornado warning down there. Right now, the main event, though, is this north-south line of supercells, but also these renegades that are eventually going to head up toward the Burlington area, northwestern Vermont. We're going to have to keep an eye on those, too. Keeping a very close eye on many of these tornado warnings. Yeah, I got that tornado warning. Jamestown, of course. Thanks, Thomas Reed. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Ruth Kerfasi. Yeah, just be prepared. No need to be scared. Chances are during tornado outbreaks like this anyway, good chance that your individual location won't even be hit by a tornado. But if you live in Geneva to Seneca Falls, keep an eye on this one upstream. This thing's turning right, lifting off to the northeast toward Tyre, Montezuma area, Weedsport. Beautiful areas of the Finger Lakes. And you've also got Sodas Point. You have that tornado warning, but it looks like Soda's Point's about to get a merger. You got another cell that's initiating just to the south of Soda Point. Hopefully that'll curtail that tornado potential just a little bit. But there's your intensifying mesocyclone coming right into Soda Point. That's probably going to develop a tornado as it comes into Soda's Point. There's your strong mesocyclone. Wouldn't be surprised if that one also produces tornadoes coming into Soda's Point eventually. The Rushville one has weakened, thank God. So, good news that Rushville into Gorham mesocyclone is a little bit weaker, because that was a dangerous situation coming in there as well. Up to the west of Sodus. Williamson, dangerous, tornadic supercell moving through that area. There's your mesocyclone, a very tight mesocyclone, powerful mesocyclone as well. We could use the enhanced ecotops to really see where those dominant mesocyclones are located, really any ecotop product. And you can see that this one near Sodus is just cranking up here. Hopefully its interaction with the cooler waters of Lake Ontario will somehow curtail the tornado potential, but you also got this one north of Gorham going berserk. New tornado warning, Farmington to Palmyra areas with that new storm that just developed. A lot of lightning up near Sodus and Soda's Point. A lot of lightning up there. That one south of Lowville is still going nuts as well. High ecotops, Martinsburg, Watson area. I think Sodas is blowing up because it's about to undergo this cell merger. This little blob is getting sucked into that supercell. There's your hook-like appendage. Forward flank downdraft going crazy. Forward flank gust front there as well. So once that absorbs, hopefully it'll shut down the tornado potential, but usually it just ramps it up. And of course we have this tornado warning: Victor, Macedon, Palmyra, Farmington area. A lot of strong rotation on the southwest side of that near Victor, just going berserk. This one, of course, a former tornado producer just to the west of Rushville. This one still has tornado potential, moving up toward the Gorham area. And off to the southwest, south of Naples. This one near Cohocton is also tornadic. And this one west of Cameron. Greenwood to Cameron. Look at the complex terrain up here. See all these flows into that main canyon. I mean, this is very difficult terrain. There's Cameron. Tornadic supercell headed that way. Big problems up here. Up near Gorham. This is a tornadic supercell coming right into Gorham, Geneva areas as well. Dangerous tornadic supercell there. And also up near Victor, and we're still watching this one headed towards Sodas Point. If you're living in Sodas Point, getting your safe place, you're probably seeing a wedge potential, or at least a low wall cloud. Very strong mesocyclone coming right into Sodas. Sodas getting your safe place. Sodas Point getting your safe place as well. This is a dangerous tornadic storm. Strong rotation right along the southern tip. That's not a debris ball. I think that's that rain blob. But Sodas, you're about to get pinched. You got this storm that's coming in. You got this one. Let's take a look at the correlation coefficient. Maybe a tornado coming into Sodas, but I think that's a little overhang happening there. Still capable of producing, radar indicated. See a little bit of a drop here, but I think that's some reflectivity overhang. That kind of in the inflow zone. I would expect that tornado to be right here, just to the west-northwest of Sodas by 3 or 4 miles. Hope it might pass just to the north of Sodas and pretty much impact Sodas Point. You got lightning right around that forward flank gust front. That's probably a tornado. This whole area could develop into a tornado near Sodas and Sodas Point. Strongest inflow, strongest mesocyclone. We could definitely see that on the enhanced echo tops right here. These broadening out and a ton of lightning up there too. Just going completely haywire up here further north. Yeah, 8 counties in western New York: Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, Erie, Genesee, Niagara, Allegheny, Orleans, and Wyoming. Numerous tornado warnings right now, but we're especially concerned about that storm near Sodas and Sodas Point. That's definitely an issue up there. We got a new mesoscale discussion that just came out. Probably just commenting on how nuts everything's going. Still worried about, you always got to be worried about these storms that are a little bit further ahead, like this one up near Sodas that's about to merge. I think we've got a little bit of a lake breeze that's initiating these storms. That will cause this one to have some storm mode issues, but in the near term, Sodas and Sodas Point probably has greater tornado potential than anywhere on the planet. Out near Gorham to Geneva as well. This thing just merged with the cell, so it's probably going to go berserk too. Up to the west of Gorham. There's your mesocyclone. It's a little broad right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it intensifies on approach to the Finger Lakes, just because you probably get a funneling of the low-level jet, a little bit funneling of the winds. That's why sometimes these storms will go nuts when they hit those valleys. You also have Italy you got to get in your safe place. Italy, New York right here. A little further south down near Cameron. Looks pretty dangerous. But that storm near Sodas Point, very concerned about that. And also some of these renegades over the Adirondacks. These are in a bit of a radar hole. I wouldn't be surprised if these even have tornadoes too. This one, if it could complete some of these mergers back south of Lowville, Lionsdale, and the Tug Hill Plateau, has a potential. This one, further south, appears to be having some issues with the capping inversion. And then you've got this convective line just going berserk. That one near Gorham, big concern. Gorham, New York, get in your safe place. It's not on the ground right now, but definitely has the potential to produce a tornado. And so does Sodas. Sodas and Sodas Point. Big inflow right there. Very tight couplet. And possible debris signature near Sodas Point. Hard to tell right at this location. It could be some reflectivity overhang. Maybe, it's definitely not hail, because given the infusion of tropical cyclone Beryl it has a little bit of a decreased impact on its hail production, a lot less in the way of hail. This one's about to merge with this SOTUS point echo. Still a hook echo around here. Possible debris signature down near SOTUS right as this merger is happening. Could be, I doubt it, but it definitely some very significant severe weather coming in. Mostly, now I'm more concerned about this Gorham cell again. It looks like we're starting to get a little weak echo region here. Not totally bounded yet. If we went on a further radar, you'd probably see a donut hole with this supercell. The rotation looks a little weaker there on Burlington radar. Maybe because of the cold waters of these deep Finger Lakes, there's a little bit of somehow stabilizing effect as they move through there, but I doubt it. But I am fascinated. Thanks everybody for tuning into this radar breakdown. I want to show you the environment ahead of these storms too. We've been breaking down a lot of the radar, but I do want to show you really quick what the environment, surface map, everything looks like with these storms moving in. We're going to go over to our trusted RAP analysis here. This is a way to visualize the RAP model and its frequent updates to try to assess tornado potential in the near term. Here it is. This is what we're looking at. Basic surface map. Your surface low is located right near the northern edge of this convective line, so I suspect that those tornado warnings back near Jamestown. Looks like you're dealing with a lot of surface west-southwesterlies back there, so I'm not as worried about those tornado warnings behind the Beryl effect, which is basically that meso low. I am worried about these though. Along that warm frontal zone, see that little barb out of the southeast right there? That definitely shows that you have these backed winds ahead of that warm frontal zone for these storms that are eventually going to make their way up toward Burlington. I'm also very worried about this convective line, and in particular those ones just ahead of the remnants of Beryl. So I think we're going to have the strongest wind shear across this Finger Lakes zone from that storm near Geneva all the way up through Syracuse. And using one of my most trusted parameters, let's look at the effective storm relative helicity. Look at that. And yes, that's in the most favorable environment right now. You've got 2 to 300, 0 to 1 kilometer shear across this zone. Interestingly, you do have that favorable low-level shear even behind the remnant of Beryl, which should be right about here now. That subtle surface low. You got great wind shear all ahead of those storms. Look at that, 2 to 300, 0 to 1 kilometer shear as these storms lift off to the northeast. It looks like the RAP is in agreement with the HRRR model with a little bit less low-level wind shear across central New York and northeastern Pennsylvania. So I do think that maybe the 3 kilometer NAM was a little bit overblown with some of the wind shear into central New York. Let's look at the instability field. Oh yeah, look at that warm frontal zone. You have this massive zone of baroclinicity or temperature gradient here at the low levels. That's a warm frontal zone that should have the greatest low-level wind shear. You saw in the effective storm relative helicity how you had your greater values right along that gradient and cape, right along that warm frontal zone. You've also got this convective line here that's moving into that area. Relatively backed winds to southerly, if not south-southeasterly, but you get some major backed winds along this warm frontal zone with those supercells that are moving along the Adirondacks. Going back to the radar. It looks like SOTUS Spring has weakened as that merged with those storms. SOTUS Point, Huron area. I think that we've had a near-time reduction of the tornado potential up near SOTUS Point. SOTUS. National Weather Service allowed that tornado warning to expire. Meanwhile, we have an uptick in the tornado potential near Geneva, right at the northern tip of that Finger Lake region, right up here. Very dangerous storm north of Gorham, New York. That's where your tornado potential is maximized, just to the north of Gorham. You're near the tip of the hook near Gorham, probably experiencing big southwesterly winds on the south side of this textbook supercell storm. And also your forward flank is getting that cyclonic curvature, that dreaded tight cyclonic curvature right there. Big inflow. I think that it's starting to feel that inflow on the northern edge of the Finger Lakes, so those southerly winds getting funneled. We got big problems here north of Gorham. Strong mesocyclone, Geneva, Waterloo, Seneca Falls. Get in your safe place on the northern edge of these Finger Lake regions. It looks like this storm is starting to respond to that enhanced low-level wind shear in the vicinity of the Finger Lakes. I'm hoping that further south, down near Italy, down near Bath, down near Cameron, maybe just to the south of the remnants of Beryl, we could somehow get a little bit more of a 5 to 10 degree tick in the southerly winds, make those a little more southwesterly. But this is the most dangerous storm right now. Anchored very close to the remnants of Beryl, according to the RAP analysis. Good news is that it does look like the ecotops came down a little bit on that last scan, especially the one just to the southwest. A little further south, it looks like the ecotops are coming down just a little bit. Increase in ecotops, though, near Savona, Campbell area. Maybe the near-time tornado potential, Bath, Savona, Hammondsport, could even increase with those ecotops. Still worried about these storms near the warm frontal zone, although on ecotops it looks like they're struggling a little bit with instability, and maybe that jet streak is a little bit further west. But we were thinking about a fly-in here into Syracuse. Let's see if this is still radar indicated. Still radar indicated there, approaching Geneva. Reflectivity looks insane on this storm. North of Gorham, headed toward the Geneva area. Just an absolutely insane pattern of reflectivity. Look at how tight that gradient is just to the west of Geneva. Hook coming around the backside near Gorham as well. So that's a dangerous supercell storm south of Phelps. We are tracking this thing in real time here. Look at that. Southwest of Geneva. That's your rotation. That's your spin. That's what we're monitoring there. Just to the southwest of Geneva. Big problems. Likely tornado coming right in there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this live radar breakdown as we have a likely tornado outbreak in progress here across central New York. This one has moved out and over the cooler waters of Lake Ontario near Sodas Point, but still has that tornado potential, waterspout potential probably just offshore. You still have the tornado warning back near Palmyra in the wake of that dominant storm near Sodas. I don't think that there's a tornado with that one now, but still, given that tornado warning, heed it. And then southwest of Geneva. Look at that. Big mesocyclone coming right into Geneva, Waterloo, Seneca Falls, and Cayuga. I wonder if this is getting seeded a little bit by this storm to the south. You can see some of that precip coming in. Hopefully, that's causing this storm to struggle a little bit. But boy, on reflectivity, it is not struggling at all. It looks very healthy, a very healthy supercell storm. Healthy mesocyclone as well. Right about here, just to the west of Geneva, west of Waterloo. Getting your safe place. Eventually, that tornado warning is also coming for Waterloo and Seneca Falls. But there's your strong rotation just to the west of Geneva. Now, I've got to take Gizmo out to go to the bathroom. She's doing some bubbles and a little bit of dry heaving right now. So I'm going to have to go down and take Gizmo out for a walk really quick. She's struggling a little bit, but you've got these multiple tornado warnings in a convective line. None confirmed right now, but I am worried about this strengthening mesocyclone coming into Geneva, Waterloo, and Seneca Falls. Lots of streamers out there breaking down radar, including a Max Velocity that's out there, Brandon Kopic that's out there live streaming in the field. Definitely check out some of their streams as they're breaking down this outbreak across portions of central New York coming into Geneva. I'm going to be right back live, everybody, so hit that notification bell, dominate the like button, but be sure to check out that real-time information and stay tuned as this outbreak continues to materialize across central New York into northern Vermont.